Relax Time Radio. You're here with Mon and I. I'm Paul. There's Mon. And we have a special guest with us this week. He's Sallo Polak from Philanthropy Connections Foundation here in Chiang Mai. And we're delighted to have him as our guest. And we're going to be talking about what his work, his philanthropy work here in Chiang Mai and other countries as well. Okay, so glad to have you listening with us. Relax Time Radio, as usual, broadcasting on 93.25 FM Radio Thailand, Chiang Mai. As usual, Mon and I show, we're going to start off with a little bit of music. Beabadoobee. Beabadoobee. Beabadoobee.
Love it.
Yeah. I think I got to turn my air conditioning up or something. Yeah, Beabadoobee, and have a lot more new released music for you. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's just going to be our interview with Sallo. Okay, so let's just get into it, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, I'll let you lead, Mon.
All right. Well, Sallo and me, just for the background a little bit, we met last year, I think in April last year. We met in one of the organizations that we both know and are friends with. And I found his work really interesting because it has a very different approach, I want to say, to what a lot of charities and especially big charities do out there, which is why I wanted to highlight it today. So I wanted to invite Sallo first to just talk about what is Philanthropy Connections and what do you do and how did it start?
Okay, there are quite a few questions. But by the way, thank you very much for having me here. I'm delighted to be featuring in this program. Thank you very much, both of you. Okay, Philanthropy Connections is an organization that I started in 2011. Like you said, there are many organizations out there. I was very skeptical, and I'm still very skeptical about a lot of charity organizations, foundation, etc. So when I started my foundation, I wanted it to be an organization that I would feel comfortable donating to myself. So I had a few things in mind that I wanted my organizations to be and to do. First of all, it's about listening to the needs of the communities that we are supposed to help. It's not a one-trick organization that we are. It's not like, hey, we focus on education, or we focus on healthcare, or we focus on childcare. No, each community has their own specific problems. And what we try to do is listen very carefully, very respectfully to what it is that the communities tell us, what is wrong within their communities, and how they think that they can solve the problems. And then we have a set of criteria. We do very thorough due diligence to find out if they meet our criteria. And if they do, and the project that they are going to implement will be effective in a way that it will do something for their own community, hey, then we try to find support for them. And because we're so flexible, we don't focus on only education, there are a lot of things that we can support. Basically, everything that is needed to bring the communities to a next level of getting out of poverty. So that's maybe a bit of a long introduction, but yeah, that is, I think, what you meant by saying that we are a bit different as an organization.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. And so I know I know about a few projects because we were talking about it before, but what are current projects, maybe 2 or 3 different ones that you support currently that do not only have to do with the COVID situations, because I know you definitely do that work too. But what would this look like right now, the project work?
Okay, 2 or 3 projects. We're doing quite a few different things. We are at this moment, we're supporting 30 different projects. Now, a very current one, there was a huge storm in Burma, Myanmar, in May. And we are supporting in Karen state a educational program where about 2,400 children are getting an education. And in very simple schools. Building in itself is not very important. The teachers are, but you do have to have a building. And what happened here is that about 6 of the schools and the school buildings, dormitory, and etc., were completely destroyed, or the roof was destroyed. So we got a cry for help from the organization that is implementing that project. And luckily we had a sponsor who loves to do infrastructure and who loves education as well. A simple telephone call to him was enough to secure the funds to repair all 6 buildings. And they will be finished in time for the schools to reopen on the 1st of July. So I'm very happy to know that all these children will be able to go to school on the 1st of July. That is one project. Another project here in the area, it's actually the closest one to Chiang Mai, is in Chiang Dao, near Chiang Dao, about half an hour away, in a small village called Ban Palai, and we support a preschool there, and it's a preschool for ethnic minority children, 5 or 6 different ethnic minority children. The thing is, this is a school that normally would be entitled to get support from the government, but the government knows very little about this school. So what we've been doing, we've been supporting the salaries of the teachers, the school lunches for the children, 60 children, and we have supporting the advocacy to make sure that the government, the local authorities know about this school, will pay attention to the school, and we're very close for the government to take over the care for this school now. So we did not wait until the government was ready. We involved the government, and now, fortunately, very soon, we won't have to support that school anymore with the funds of our sponsors, but it will be supported by the local government. So these are two of the projects that we support, both education, but very different in effect.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what are, maybe you can share with us a little bit, if someone comes with a project to you, or maybe you approach them, or however the beginning is the onboarding, what are the points, or what are the conditions you look at that the project needs to fulfill in order to be supported by Philanthropy Connections?
Well, first of all, what we like to do most is not that projects find us, but that we find projects. The reason for that is, if they can find us, then they have the means to find support from others as well. What we try to do is find hidden communities, projects that do not have the resources to reach out because they don't speak the language, they don't have the network, maybe they don't have the time. So what we do is we reach out within our network and see if we can find projects that do a fantastic job, but don't have the resources to find us. The criteria that we find very important is that it's really needed, it's necessary, it's not a luxury, but it is necessary to improve the situation of the people who are in vulnerable situations. Then the project must be embedded within the community. So the people who run it are part of the community. We want that because they speak the language, they know the culture, they know what the problems in the communities are. So it must be a part of the community. They take ownership, and then the chances of a project working are that much bigger. Then we must know that, so it has to be effective. There must be an end result, and it must be cost efficient. So we ask a lot of questions about how the money is spent. We monitor it. We want to know that the money that is entrusted to us by our sponsors is used for what it was intended, and we not pay too much. We want to pay a fair price for everything, but there must be the cost efficiency. Then we find it very important that the people who are there know what they're doing, so they're experts in the field, and that they that they commit to the same non-discrimination policies that we have. So if a project only gives the support to, for instance, children, if they then go do this, go to church, go to a temple, etc., that's in many cases a no-go for us. So non-discrimination policy we have. Yeah.
Mm, that's very good.
Those are the main, those are the main criteria. Yeah.
Right.
And we monitor and we evaluate. It's not like this that okay, you got the money, good luck, bye-bye, never see you again. No, we keep on monitoring the organization, the project, to see if it is indeed effective, if it is cost efficient, and we ask questions. We want to make sure that it's a good project. Yeah.
Right. So how did you, I think you said you started in 2011, but did you start out of the need you saw here to support people that, you know, didn't have resources, or maybe that weren't supported by the government, or, you know, any other reason? Or did you expand maybe out of a different country, or what was the reason that you actually started Philanthropy Connections here in Thailand?
Well, the wish to do something for underprivileged people was a long cherished wish, and I had in my former life tried several other things to do something to make myself useful. Then, when I was on a holiday extended holiday in Laos, I saw the same poverty that I'd seen on many trips in previous years, and I decided there and then to put my I told myself, what happened to my old ideals? So I was working at that time for Dutch television, and I decided to quit that job and try and find an organization that I would feel comfortable with giving my working for. So by then I already had, not as defined as I just described them to you, I already knew what I wanted and what I didn't want, and I was looking for an organization that I could help. So I found one here in Chiang Mai, and after a while, I decided that I wanted to do it my way, and by then I had already built up quite a bit of knowledge and a network, and I started slowly with one project, finding sponsors for that, and I saw the needs, and I saw the way forward for the different communities by indeed supporting, empowering people in how they were looking at what would be best for them to move forward. So, is that answering your question?
Absolutely.
Good.
I have a quick question. I mean, because a lot of the things you're saying, and some of the things I saw on your website as well about the history of the organization, reminded me of these two organizations called 80,000hours.org and Effective Altruism. Have you heard of them?
I've heard of Effective Altruism. The other one, not yet.
Well, they're linked. They're sort of like sister organizations. So Effective Altruism sort of attempts to understand what's the most effective way to give, to help, etc. And 80,000 hours does the same thing from the point of view of work, not necessarily from the point of view of sort of fundraising, nonprofits, charity, but in terms of, supposing you want to have a positive impact on the world. Mm-hmm. What are your skills? What you should do. So that sort of raised in me a question. Your background in television, your background in media, do you think it's been very useful, especially useful to you in what you do now?
I think so, yeah. In making television programs, many different ways, making documentaries, doing talk shows, even entertainment programs. The the best people, the best interviewers, the best reporters are the ones who are listening, really listening to the people that are that they're interviewing or that they're talking with. So I learned that, to listen and to not have your own. Of course you have your own ideas, but they are, in an interview, they're less important. It's about the person in front of you. You want to know what he is saying, what his story is. And in this case, with the work that I'm doing now, I find that incredibly important as well. You listen to the people who live the lives in their communities, to the camp leader who's running his refugee camp, to the principal of a school who talks with the parents, who sees the children, etc. Listen to them, listen to the expert, listen to what they have to say, and how they see that they can move forward. So yes, I've learned a lot from the time that I was working in television. It's a bit of a personality thing, I think, as well. It's about listening. I'm talking a lot now, I know that, but I'm here to tell my story, I think.
Right,
but,
we asked you to talk. It's fair enough.
Okay, and but yeah, listening is important. And of course, the name of our organization is Philanthropy Connections. So what we try to do is to connect the people in the field who are, in a way, philanthropists because they help their communities, with people who want to do something for underprivileged communities, underprivileged people. And those are the sponsors, those are the donors. And for me, it's also very important to listen to them, to know what it is that they would like to support. And then we try to make a match.
Listen to the donors, to the supporters.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
As well.
Sometimes you have to, how do you say, educate the sponsors as well, because they think what the most important thing could be is building a school. And then you can take a picture of the school with you and you can show it to everybody. But what I just said, if you have a school, if you have a building, but you don't have the teachers, then the school is worth nothing. So in many cases, yes, I listen to the sponsors, we listen to the sponsors, but we also tell them what the real needs are. And very often there is a very good match. I mean, we do so many different things that it's always possible to find a good match between a project and a sponsor. And that's why I say listening to our sponsors is very important as well. What is it that they find important? And then, yeah, we try to make that match.
Sorry, just one final question, Monique, if you don't mind. Can I jump in for one more? Actually, right, that was one of, I think one of the principal reasons the organization Effective Altruism and the Center for Effective Altruism was set up was to provide a way to give sponsors confidence. Yeah. Yep. So in other words, to be able to give sponsors confidence that their money was being used as far as it could possibly go.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes. No, that has been clear to me from the beginning. One of our biggest sponsors is a very kind Dutch lady, and she read an article about us, contacted us, and started with supporting a small project just to see how we were doing. So I listened to her. I talk with her. I tell her exactly what it is that we do and what her money is, where it is going. We, first of all, send a very clear project proposal, what the needs are. Then an interim report. How do you call them? Informal emails, telephone calls if needed. And at the end of the cycle, a report, a final report. And I know that it is important for the sponsors, but she told me as much as well. She said that she in the past been giving to other organizations, bigger organizations. And when she called them or wrote them an email to ask what happened with the money, the answer she got was, oh, well, we actually need a bit more money. They were not listening to her. They were just asking for more money. And what we do is being very open, very transparent to the sponsors. They get what they ask for, that what we promise. We do what we say, and we don't say more than we do. It's important to have that kind of a contact with your sponsors as well, to show them this is what your money is doing. And that, I think, is also one of the reasons why, yeah, by far all of our sponsors come back to us and want to do more for us.
Funny.
Yeah.
I was waiting. We have another one.
Oh, well, I was just going to actually say, I have a friend who works for UNICEF, and he told me that he saw so many great projects that that didn't have the ability to do proper donor reporting. And so, he said often people, sometimes he wanted to create a way, he actually wanted to create a way for people to outsource donor reporting. In other words, if a small, like for example, if a small community project could manage the work but couldn't do the proper reporting, but perhaps that's also something that is one way to. That's also one way to help community projects, I suppose, without actually even bringing in extra funding. Yeah, directly.
Yeah, we do that as well. I mean, we ask from our projects that they send us reports, and if we see that they struggle to do that, if they don't really are trained to do that, then we train them. We have a very good project team who are very patient, and we do ask a lot of questions. And if we don't get the answers that we get, then our project team will instruct them on how to fill in the reports or answer the questions. So, yeah, we know the importance of good reporting from the projects to us, because we want to know what is going on in the projects, and we have to report to our sponsors as well. Hey, this is what is happening with your money in these projects. And so reporting is very important, and outsourcing, for instance, is out of the question. Far too expensive. We don't do that. Yeah.
I would love to know what you think the challenges are when you encounter the first contacts maybe with projects. So say you found like a hidden little gem, a great project, maybe in the north of Thailand, along the border, they do some great work. And you want to support them, and then you go and say like, hey, we're Philanthropy Connections, we want to support you. And how challenging is it, or maybe what challenges do you encounter when you first get in contact with them? Because I assume, I know assumptions are not the best, but I assume that often they may be not very trustful in the beginning of how this could work. And maybe because they've been disappointed before, or maybe because they were never approached by a foundation like this to get support. So what are the challenges there when you first approach a project like that?
Okay, I think there's two sides of that. First of all, we have to find out if this is a project that meets our criteria. Mm-hmm. So the challenges are to get them into that process. And the process is very simple. First, I mean, the first contact is always, well, not always, but we meet up with them, or we send emails, or we call. And if we see some potential, then they'll get the pre-due diligence questionnaire. It's 10 questions, and very simple questions to find out if it would make sense for us to continue with the proper due diligence. So those 10 questions are very well thought through, and it will give us already a very good idea of whether or not it's worthwhile to continue. The other thing, how can we make them trust us? I think the personal contact, the personal touch is very important within our organization. We have a team. Myself, I do my best. I try to meet as soon as possible with the people who run the project, and I put my personality in there to make them feel comfortable and tell them about us. And indeed, treat them with respect, sit down and listen, to make them understand, hey, we're not here to tell you how to run things and to change, but tell us what it is doing. What are your problems? And my team are following suit. They do the same thing. So it's about personal contact. Building up a relationship of trust is the only way to work, I think, with small projects like the one I think you have in mind. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are there any challenges that are basically from the outside? So let's say if you work with little projects like this, do you have to go through any challenges, or maybe challenge is not the right word for it, but any processes with the government? Do you need any, is there anything that we as outsiders don't even see that you have to do in order to be able to support projects like this? Or can you just go and be like, oh, hey, we're going to help you from now on?
Well, we are not an implementing organization. So all the dealings with the government, with the respective governments, we work in Cambodia, in Burma, and here in Thailand. And we trust that the implementing partners, our projects, they deal with the government. All we do is, well, not only funding, we sometimes make connections with other organizations that have services that they can offer as well. But in giving the funds to these projects to run their own operation, we also empower them to deal with all the things that they encounter, indeed, with the local authorities. And so far, the only concern that we have with the authorities is to show them what it is that we are actually doing, and to get our work permits for the foreign staff, and to that's about it. And we don't. It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of documentation, but it's so clear also to the authorities when they see what it is that we're doing that we get that support. But that's the only thing. The projects in themselves, they take care of business. Yeah.
That's good. So yeah.
Sorry.
No, Paul. I'm always giving it a break to see what you want to ask. So I let you go.
I thought you passed one ready. I wasn't sure. I know you were going to think of something. I know you're quick. I think I was just going to ask, do you have sort of ambitions? Do you hope to keep growing? I know I saw from your website that you've been growing and been adding team members. Do you hope to keep growing? And if you do grow, are there sort of projects that you like to be able to take on that you can't currently, for example?
We don't want to grow because we want to grow. It's not about becoming a big organization that is recognized all over the world. If we want to grow because if we go, we can help more people. That is why we exist. We want to help people. And the more people we can help, the better. But we want to do it without losing our DNA. We started the organization with ideals, with ideas in mind as well. One of the things that I often say is we want to help as many people as possible, but we don't close our eyes for individual suffering. So we put a lot of effort. If we see, there's the example, one of our projects was a little child and she caught my attention. There was something, I couldn't put my finger on it. And then with from the principal, I heard that most probably she didn't see you very well because she's got a problem with her eyes. Her parents were so poor they could not afford glasses for her. So we bought her glasses, and now she can actually see what's on the blackboard, and she can take part in the education. So a bigger organization, or an organization that would focus on helping only as many people as possible, would not go into that. And there are several, quite a few of those things that we do. So we do want to grow, but we want to remain who we are. And that is like what I talked to you about before. Sit down with communities, listen to them, and help them any way they tell us that is needed. Yeah.
I mean, I see a huge advantage because presumably, even if something were to happen to your organization, the people running the community projects, they're still able to do what they do. They perhaps might need to look for other sources of funding, but it wouldn't fall apart completely, at least. Whereas,
no.
yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's all about empowerment and empowering what is already there, and also great ideas of we've been helping a student, somebody who got a scholarship from an organization that I worked for before. He had a brilliant idea of setting up an educational institution where people from minority groups would learn the skills how to help their communities. So they train change makers, future leaders, community leaders, teachers, etc. So he had that idea, and we saw the potential. So this is the 5th year that we're supporting this project. Yeah, and it can, if they have enough funding, they will be able to continue. They're not dependent on us to run their project only for funding at this moment. Yeah. I'm happy. Yeah, I believe it.
Awesome.
I believe in what we're doing. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I just said it's awesome
wonderful.
because I obviously like I mean, you know, it's all I love supporting like the especially project with minorities and for refugees, because I truly believe that the power is in the people, and that, as you just say, they can be change makers, you know. And I just love that. Like, that's why I'm smiling and I'm like,
okay, good.
yeah.
I mean, we are, of course, we come across a lot of misery, a lot of sad situation, but I'm happy because the way we are working, we can at least do something and we can see the results. And so I do not see I see the sad situations, the vulnerable positions that people are in, but I'm very happy that with what we are doing, we can make a difference, and show that to our sponsors as well, and they see the difference, and they're happy. So yeah, it's a good situation for all parties involved. So I'm happy with the organization that we have set up. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So looking at the situation now, COVID virus, tourists are still not coming in. And knowing that you also support refugees, IDPs, and as you said, you listen a lot to them. What would you say is like the maybe a midterm possibility or opportunity for maybe migrants, IDPs, refugees that are here in Thailand? How can we support them, especially in Chiang Mai, around Chiang Mai, you know, northern Thailand, to be able to support themselves? Because we also know that in the camps, the UN has been not very supportive anymore in the past years.
Yeah.
So what do you think could be strategies other than sending food supplies to maybe help them also find maybe work, or you know, like, do you have any ideas? Do they have any ideas?
Do I have ideas? I mean, the moment the situation got very bad for indeed migrants, refugees, but also people here in Chiang Mai who lost their jobs, who lost their clients, who lost because there were no more tourists, etc., and their shops closed. The only thing we could do and are still doing is providing free meals and food packages. The situation for migrants who work in on farms, etc. What we hope is that gradually they can go back to work. We don't. I mean, we're so at this moment we're supporting over 2,500 people with our food packages and meals. And each situation is different. So there are people in a refugee camp. There are people who work in garlic farms, chili farms, etc. There are students who are supported by another organization, cannot go to school, their parents cannot go to work. We help with food packages. We don't have because then we would be maybe the implementing organization. We don't have the bigger picture of what should happen to improve the situation for all of them. We see what the current need is. We help with these food packages now, and we hope that at some point they can do and go back to what it is that they have been doing before the virus. And we listen carefully to the organizations that help us distribute these food packages. They're again the ones on the ground. We help support Swan Women Action Network. We help Fortune Community Health Group. We help Kongjor Shan Refugee Camp. And we help the teacher, the principal of the Bampalai preschool. They see what is happening within their communities, and we listen to them to see if they can come up with solutions. They are there, they're out there. Yeah. But the bigger picture of how the total population of migrants who cannot go back to, for instance, Burma, how that should be resolved, that's not something that I can,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Paul, do you have a last question for Sallo?
I don't know.
Needn't be the last. I've got nothing to do the rest of the evening.
Actually, Mon and I have just been helping out on one project to help Khruangbin and other refugee and IDP camps. And a couple of years ago, I went up to Khruangbin camp as well. And that's
really? Yeah.
That's a difficult one because they're in a position where they've been there for so long, and the situation hasn't, the fighting's continued. The situation hasn't allowed them to, resolve it for most of the people that live in the camps. I have heard, I don't know if you've worked with any kind of organizations that have done similar things, but I've heard that some education projects have been able to sort of naturalize people who are formerly in refugee camps, and they become, Thai citizens or have, at least some paperwork and rights to work and live in Thailand.
Yes, yeah. One of the things that we do in the camp is support the stipends for English teachers, and another one is complementary scholarships for Bright students who want to help their communities to get an education outside of the camp, indeed, again, to become community leaders. So through these two projects, we help people to get, the students, the youth, to get better skills that can help them to pursue further education and get jobs outside of the camp. And again, the population of the camp in many instances have been able to get, for instance, a 10-year identity card, and they are able to join relatives inside Thailand and to build up a life. Not for everybody. I mean, the camp population is still there. Going back to Burma, to Shan State, the Kongjor people are from Shan State. That's out of the question. That's
I understand.
Yeah. But give them as much opportunity to have hope and skills to make a better life for themselves. That is something that we can help with, definitely.
Right. Do I have any other questions? Let me see. Well, one question about, for example, people who are thinking about getting involved in philanthropy projects or volunteering. Do you have any advice or like for example, so you say in the beginning you joined an organization, perhaps that was the necessary step, and then you saw that you would like to do it in your own way. Do you have anything to say just towards people who are maybe thinking about getting involved?
Oops. Huh. That's a tough one. It's not easy to set up your own organization here, especially now in this this time of Corona. Very much is dependent on your skill set.
Right.
A lot of people, we get quite a few requests of people who want to help. And the best thing that they can think of is go into a project and build a school or I don't know, care for children. To them, I always say, leave that to the people of the community. The role models that they need are not another white face. They are the people from their own community. They can never become a white Westerner. So leave that to the people who are part of their community. They can become like them. So volunteers can, for instance, during a short period of time, or maybe even a year, teach English if that is necessary, because English teachers, yeah. But building things, taking care of children, no, don't do that. If you want to make a difference, you can try and apply for an organization like ours and see what you can do for that organization. And very often it's maybe quite boring. It's sitting in an office and write proposals and reports, and occasionally you can visit a project. But you can make a difference that way. You can learn a lot. It's the way that I started, and yeah.
So perhaps one thing to think of might be do some research, learn what's needed and what's not needed. For example.
Exactly. Again, listen. Don't do it because you want to be inside that project and it's nice to have your Facebook picture or a picture of you helping children and put that on Facebook. It's not about you. It's about the communities that you want to support, and it's think about what you can really make for a difference for them. And I would always support the idea that the project should be implemented by the people themselves. And what we can do is make the connections between sponsors and those projects, and then work with a local team. The most of our staff, all of our staff who work in the projects are Thai. The foreigners that work for us work in communications, basically, writing the reports in English and the proposal, etc. Yeah.
I think that's super, super important for people to understand that if you go into either volunteering or into nonprofit work, that it's not about what you want to do for them, but what the communities really need. And Paul and me talked about this quite a few episodes back, I want to say episode or shows back, about the white savior complex. And it's very real that people just, as you said, those selfies with the kids or whatever. And it's very real, but also very interesting. And what you just said, I think it's so important to understand how much representation matters for the kids to see that someone from their own community can be community leader, can be the teacher, can be the creator, can be the builder, can be, they can be everything they want to be. Exactly. But they need to see it first, right?
Yep.
And it's so it's so important because I have a podcast and I just talked about it with someone from Singapore. He's a Chinese Singaporean, and we talked about mental health and how in Asia it's just not talked about a lot. And I said, we need people like him, for example, to talk about publicly, because otherwise, for example, Asian people just learn from white people about mental health, but that's not even comparable. And
No.
the representation is so important across everything, right? So I can sit here and talk about my life experiences, but no Asian kid will ever be able to relate. No Black person will ever be able to relate. Maybe not, no English person will be able to relate, because I'm talking about German experiences in my childhood, you know? So even that can already be very different. So I think I'm very grateful you said that, because I just wanted to amplify that a little bit more, because it's really so important. And for everyone who wants to get started and wants to go into volunteering, to really think about where they can be the most helpful and the least harmful.
Yep, exactly.
And so, as you said, sometimes that can be really boring in the office, but if you make the most impact there, then that's exactly where you should be, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And for me, I never thought of myself as somebody who would sit 10, 11 hours a day in an office in front of my laptop. Now I'm thoroughly enjoying it, because I see the impact that we can have by me doing that. And yes, it's great, and I would want to miss going to the projects as well, to see with your own eyes the results of what you're doing. But the pleasure, the satisfaction, it feels so good to be able to do something for the communities by just sitting in your office and make those connections. One thing that I would like to add, because like I said, we do visit the projects. We do not implement anything. We do not, we're not involved in the project on a day-to-day basis. But I think what is important, for instance, for the people in Khruangbin camp and for the children that we visit in Bampalai, in the preschool, or other of our projects, they see these are people who are especially immigrants or migrants and refugees. They have enemies, and they feel being treated badly by the people they fled for, but then to see that there are people who care for them, outsiders who care enough for them to help them, to want to help them, that is making an impact on them, on how they see the world. That there are people who do care, that they don't only have enemies. And I think it's very important for children and youth to see that there are people who do not abandon them, who are being kind to them. So
that's
in
an interesting
that sense,
point.
I think it is important, and you don't have to stay there and work with them, but they know where the support is coming from, and let others do the implementation. But they know, hey, there are outsiders; they care for us, and I think indeed that's making an impact on how they see the world, and that they hopefully get become better people because of that.
I think that's a wonderful end statement.
Okay.
Yeah, we can, well, one more thing, we can certainly share your website, Philanthropy Connections, and your Facebook page. Do you have a message that you'd like to give to any potential supporters or donators who might be interested in learning about some of the projects you support?
Contact us, talk with us, listen, or tell us about what it is that you would like to see or do. My team and I are very happy to talk with people, and if you're indeed interested and you're willing to do something, we gladly take you to the project that we are supporting. They're not zoos. They're not. But if you have a real interest and we have the feeling that you really want to do something and make a difference, then we will first of all gladly talk with you, show what it is that we're doing, and if possible at all, take you to one of the projects to see with your own eyes what it is that you can do, what impact you can have. Yeah. So contact us. Always very welcome.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Sallo. It's been
Thank
a
you
real
very much.
pleasure to have you on the show.
Okay, thank you. very nice talking with you, and we'll meet again, I'm sure.
Thanks so much. Well, I think we'll you needn't leave us. We'll just quickly say goodbye to our audience as well, because we don't really have, well, we have more music for them, but that'll just be in the radio broadcast and not in the video. So actually at this point we can say goodbye. So from me, Paul, from Mon, and on behalf of Sallo, thanks again. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Relax Time Radio, which broadcasts nightly on 93.25 FM from 7:30 to 9 p.m. right here on Radio Thailand, Chiang Mai. Thanks, everybody. Good night. See you next time. Tomorrow's show is Legal Matters with Khun Tom, Jalan Kase Suk. I'll be here on Sunday with Lily for the Jazz, Blues and Soul show, and Mon and I will be back next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.